you're going to have to work harder for your profit as a franchise owner because you're always paying them a percentage of your gross sales. So at Precision Tune, for instance, when I was there, the requirement was to send them 7.5% of every penny that came in my door. Plus, I had an obligation to spend an additional 9% on advertising. So in my business model that they presented with me, or to me, was that 16.5% of every dollar that came in had to be spent on things that had nothing to do with my business, with my profitability at all. So you have to do things to make up for that, and which means you're going to have to work harder and have higher gross sales than you would if you started a business that didn't have a name, and so forth. But branding can be very important. I mean, people made millions as McDonald's owners. Chick-Fil-A is another one that's out there. I read somewhere that they open a few hundred stores a year, and they have like 15,000 people per year applying to buy a Chick-fil-A franchise. So it is possible to make money in the franchising business, but it is hazardous unless you look very carefully. Find out how many stores are in your area, and look at statistics. And consider, if you read the franchise business public relations information, they'll tell you things like it's far safer to buy a franchise. We have much lower failure rates. But once I got inside, I found out that that's not exactly the way it is. It reminds me of a friend of mine told me, who was an accountant. He said, "Jim, always remember that figures lie and liars figure." So now you have a situation where a franchise says, well, last year we had 2 failures out of 100 stores. So that doesn't sound very bad. It sounds like a pretty safe business. But then you have to look at how they count the 2 failures. So if one of those failures was the only failures that they would count would be stores that actually closed. So if you had a store that closed and didn't exist anymore, then that's a failure. But you could have a store on Broadway where the owner went bankrupt, but somebody kept the store open. The owner found a buyer just before he closed, or the bankruptcy court I bought franchises out of bankruptcy, and I guarantee you they were considered success because the store stayed open throughout the whole time. So if the store stays open, it's a successful store. You might have 10 guys that lost their life savings and went into bankruptcy, and they're not counted as failures. So you have to be very careful of that. If you look at a franchise and you're considering buying it, I consider it of monumental importance to see how many people have sued them. They're required to disclose that to you. Litigation really should never happen. So if you have, as in the case with Express, if you have 800 franchisees and maybe you have 1 or 2 incidents of litigation in 40 years, that's well within a limit of tolerance. But if you have a franchise company that you see as having litigation every year or 2, that's a problem. That means that the franchisees are not happy. And the primary reason franchisees aren't happy is because they're not making money. So litigation, in my mind, equals a lack of profitability. If you're making money, you forgive almost anything. So you have to give a lot of consideration to those things. But don't think it's an easy path. Don't think because you have a brand that it's going to work out. Don't think just because it's you and you've been lucky in the past it's going to work out. Come in and roll up your sleeves, learn your business, and you have a much higher probability of success. I want to thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. More so, I hope it's of some value to you and will help you to be successful in whatever endeavor you plan to undertake. If you have any questions for me or you'd like to get in touch with me, you can leave a comment and you'll be able to do that. I'll be able to find you. You can like us, you can share the video or comment your feedback. If you have questions, we'd love to answer them. Feedback will help us to help others. Take advantage of our experience, save yourself a lot of money, and have a great life.